back to the Childhood Cancer Perspective, and thank you all for sticking with me through this journey and for my ability to be able to share so many other stories, including my own. The best part about this podcast and this platform is that I'm able to share things with an unfiltered attitude and not be able to have them censored by any outside forces because we want to say what we want to say. Childhood cancer is not something that is fun to talk about, and it is not a pretty and sparkly subject. And we want to be able to talk about it in a way that gets people on the outside to understand and maybe bring a little bit more awareness. So today, my guest is going to be sharing her story and her son Max's story with pediatric cancer. So we're just going to jump right into it. Amanda, thank you so much for being with me today, and welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. So, my son Max was 9 when he was diagnosed. And I always like to kind of explain what was going on because I know people are like, how did you know? Well, we were on vacation in Flaming Gorge, Utah, and he had gotten sick. And it was around the time when COVID was happening. So, I wasn't sure if like maybe he had the flu or just a really bad case of COVID. But he got really sick and he was just laying on the couch. It had been going on for a few days. And it got to the point where he wasn't keeping food down and then he wasn't keeping liquid down. And that's when we were like, we got to drive back to Salt Lake and take him to the doctor. So that's what I did. We packed him up and he was at this point throwing up a lot. So we had him in the car and he had a bowl. And then I made the journey as fast as I could. We were about 3.5 hours away from the doctor. And I drove by Primary Children's Hospital thinking I should probably stop there, but I'm like, it's probably no big deal. So we went to urgent care. The doctor came in the room, looked at him, turned and looked at me, said, I don't like his color. Do you? And I said, no, he looks like really pale. And he's like, I'm sending you to primaries. So we had to pack up and just go right back to where I should have stopped to begin with. But I was still thinking it's not a big deal. It's probably just like the flu or COVID, because COVID had just happened and it was really big. And so we got in there and they moved probably faster than I've ever seen anybody in an emergency room move. There was like so many doctors and nurses in our room and they took him for an x-ray. And at this point, he wasn't really with it. He was really lethargic and out of it. And then they came back in and it wasn't very long. We were probably there a couple hours and it wasn't very long. And then they came in and they said, oncology is coming down to talk to you. And I just said, okay. And my brain was like, why would oncology be coming down to talk to me? Like, it doesn't even it didn't make sense in my brain. And the doctor that came down, she had to repeat it multiple times. She's like, he has cancer. And I would just say, okay. And she's like, she has cancer. And I just kept saying, okay. And like, it wasn't sinking in. But then they sent us right to the PICU. It was really scary in the beginning. They told me if we had waited one more day, he probably wouldn't have made it. And so they worked really, really fast. We got sent over to do radiation first because his tumor was like, I got to see one of the x-rays and it was covering all of his, like, you could barely see his lungs on the side. Like, it was so big. And so they sent us to do radiation first, which normally they don't because they don't want to kill the tissue before they can do biopsy. So they sent us over there first and like, it didn't even like sink in till later how dangerous it was. They had life flight walk us from Primaries to Huntsman, and they have a tunnel that connects them, and they had Lifeline come and walk us through. That's how scary it was. And like he had his oxygen, he had his monitor, he had everything while we went through the tunnel. Like it still wasn't, I know I was in shock. Like it wasn't sinking in how dangerous this all was, even with Lifeline at that point walking us across. But like, it was July 2nd when he was diagnosed, 2020, and it was July 3rd and 4th when he had radiation. And those ladies were so sweet. They had to come in, like there was nobody there. It was a holiday. They came in and they gave him radiation, and that was shrunk his tumor enough to get it off of his heart and his airway, which is what was causing, like why it was so scary and dangerous in the beginning, because it was just pushing his airway and his heart over. And so, yeah, they came in and did that. And then he ended up having to have 3 biopsies. They weren't sure if he had leukemia or lymphoma in the beginning. But we had to make that choice. Like it was a life-saving choice. We knew we'd probably kill a lot of the tumor with the radiation and that we might have to do more than 1 biopsy, which is what it ended up being. That's what happened before we even knew what type. So like I see parents asking all the time, like, did you figure out what it was right away? Did it take some time? It took us some time. It was probably 2.5, 3 weeks before we knew that it was a lymphoma and we weren't looking at leukemia. So that's kind of the start of our journey. We ended up being in the PICU for 6 days. And then after that, we were sent to the oncology floor. And so we had 36 days inpatient in the beginning. And I know some people are there for a lot longer than that, but it was rough and it seemed like so long. And it was right when COVID started. So nothing was going on at that point in time. Like when we were there in the beginning, the Ronald McDonald House wasn't even open. So I think it was day 5, maybe day 6 when I finally got to shower. So that was like a little thing, but you start to feel really, really gross. And when you're trying to keep your kiddo healthy, you don't want to be like this churning mess right next to him. So very fond of the Ronald McDonald House. That was very nice. But then when we were on the oncology floor finally, after all of his levels and everything were steady enough to go upstairs, they have a shower. So that was a blessing. Like the little things you don't think of as a parent, like that these families need when they're going through this, like that was it. So that was like the start of our journey. And then he went into just having all the chemo. Like we had a big plan. I probably can't even mention all the names of the chemo he had. Like I swear I was in shock for months, like weeks at least. Like I would have to write down my questions on his whiteboard or I'd forget what I wanted to ask. Like my brain was just gone for the longest time. But yeah, that was our start of our journey. I think back and like it seems like it was like 5 years ago now, but it seems like it just catches up to you as you go on and you think about it all the time. And yeah, sorry, in my mind for a second.
No, no, that's you're kind of reliving and bringing it all back up, and it all come back around. I get it 100%.
Yeah.
And our daughter was diagnosed in January of 2020, so that same time frame of COVID
Mm.
and nothing like she was diagnosed, and then in March the world shut down. So it's like everything was changing, and everything was the medical community was different, and everything you saw was different, and so now you're not only on an island trying to figure out how to navigate this, but now you're also navigating a national pandemic, and medical care is changing, and who can be there? You have to be there by yourself, and how many doctors are on staff, and so there's a lot of aspects that go
Right.
into it that I think that's a big part of just this journey in general. You add that on top of it, that's something that people don't really think about. They think COVID was the only thing happening at those times. And the reality of it is there was a whole world happening inside of that nobody understands.
Yeah. And it was like so hard. Like I think if things would have been working in the beginning, like he wanted the dogs to be there like so bad. Like, and they just weren't. Like it wasn't until we were outpatient that the dogs started to come and visit and things started to open up a little bit more. Like he did get music therapy before we left, and that was amazing. For the longest time, we just had a goal of getting him out of his bed because he would not get out of his bed. He like had no will to get up and walk. And I'm sure it probably hurt at that point, but like the nurses and the doctors were coming in and telling me like, you got to get him out of this bed. Like it's going to get so much worse. His muscles are not going to work anymore. Like so, and it was actually the teacher when she came, and she's like, "Hey, we have VR. Do you think he'd get out of the bed if we brought in a VR system?" And so that was the first thing that actually got him out of bed was VR, and he'd play that gorilla tag. He couldn't play for very long. It was only a couple minutes in the beginning, but that was getting him up because even the physical therapists were like, we're working with him, but we got to get him out of this bed. And so yeah, the little things that you think that nobody really knows are happening, like
Yeah.
that are happening. Yeah. And like, it was so like, it was shocking the first time we saw our nurses without masks. And it wasn't until I think we were at 3-month visits in survivorship at that point. And we saw them without masks. And we're like, I think I know you, but I don't think I know you because I'm used to everybody having a mask on. So
Oh, yeah. We
so
spent a
weird.
lot of time not knowing what anybody's faces look like above their nose, right? You just look at their eyes, and and that's difficult. But that was obviously for you guys too, and I can, attest to it. That's probably one of the most challenging things is that almost lack of contact that you have when you're trying to fight this, and that detail. But honestly, it brought out the best in the parents, I think, because you had to put forth that effort to really get what you wanted and make sure that they knew what was going on, because you are your child's best advocate 100%. And you mentioned therapy, and they're trying to get the kids moving and doing things like that. And to be honest with you, he sounds a little bit like my daughter, and she didn't want physical therapy. Like, forget it. Get out of the room. Don't mess with me. These are kids. Like, they don't want to get up and climb stairs and throw a ball. Like, they want to go home. They don't want to be there. She wanted nothing to do with it. But you had to bribe them with either something fun or, listen, we can stay here forever or we can go home if you just do this therapy. And so,
Yeah.
did he have a hard time just not wanting to do it, or was it more of just hurting from what he was going through for the physical therapy?
I think it was both. I think he didn't really understand what was going on. Like I mean, he was 9 and we would talk in front of him. Like I never held any of that back. Like I was like, this is your body. Like this is what's happening. So we're going to tell you what's going on. But he had no motivation. And I think some of it was physical. Like, and he was so sick. Like he was one of those kids that like he was nauseous all the time. We had everything going on. He had a patch. We had Benfin, which they don't do anymore. We had all the nausea meds. They were going around the clock. Like I'd have to be on him to give it to him, or it was just done. Like I was catching puke in my hands. Like he was sick all the time, and like I think he just thought if I get up out of this bed, it's going to get worse. And laying here is the only thing. And he would try not to move sometimes, like just try to feel as good as he could, I guess. Like, but he was so sick, like just nauseous all the time. And it was rough. I think it was a lack of motivation, but I think he just did not feel good. Like even getting him to walk from the unit to the bathtub to give him a bath was hard. And that was maybe, I don't know, 30 steps. I mean, we weren't very far away. And like, he just did not feel good. And I think he was so weak that he just didn't. So, like, even when we come back for his visits, he rode in a wheelchair a lot. And like they cheered the first time he walked from the parking garage upstairs all by himself. They all cheered for him. Like they were waiting for that moment for him to have enough energy and oomph to just make it from downstairs to upstairs. Like so, like they become like your little family and your little support net. Like I still remember the nurse who like we were maybe 2 weeks in. She's like, I know I'm not supposed to, but I'm gonna hug you because I can just tell that you need like she's like, nobody's here, like nobody's here for you. I'm just gonna give you a hug. And they're not supposed to because of COVID. Like they become your family. They do.
Oh, they do. They become a massive support system. And I would say that a vast majority, very, very few will you ever have issues with, but the vast majority will be your support system and be there for you. And especially within a children's hospital, I think you notice a dynamic, as an adult, if you go to the hospital, in reality, you are treated as a patient number, and you have, because you can explain yourself, you can tell them what's going on all the way down to whatever the detail is. Whereas a kid, they need that personal attachment to whoever's treating them because they don't understand in enough detail to be able to tell what's going on. You're advocating for them, but having these nurses and doctors and child life specialists that become your family. And listen, I'm still in contact with people that treated our daughter in the past, because they do become like family, and they care about you, and they know your name, and you have their cell phone numbers to the main doctor and oncologist. Like, these are the people that are like, hey, you call me if you need anything. Don't call the hospital
Yeah.
because you're going to be put through all this routing. And that's important because, like I mentioned a few minutes ago, when you get diagnosed with something like this, most parents do feel like they are on an island, because not everybody knows somebody that's going through this on a child level. And so you're trying to navigate that. Then you get thrown into this, and you're making decisions in the blink of an eye, on top of trying to, discern who people are, because you can't see anything above their nose for months and months and months. It's really important that they have that personal connection with you. And it's so incredibly heartwarming to hear that there's other parents that feel that too, because unfortunately you do have people that get into this field that I don't think they understand how important it is to humanize every patient and make them feel like they're number one at that moment and they're the only people in that room at that moment.
Yeah. And there were some, like, we have some favorite doctors, of course we do. And there were some that their goal would be they walk in that room and they were trying to make me smile and laugh. Like, and they would be bluntly honest, but they would try to do it with humor. And like, um, I didn't really have anybody like his dad and I were together at that time, but he switched me places at the hospital once. And you could only switch. The COVID rule was every 12 hours. So you could only switch every 12 hours. And it could be once. And he came up and stayed once. And he's like, this is too hard. I can't do this. And Max is like, I would rather have you there anyway. So it ended up being me most of the time. Like I can count on one hand the number of times he went to an appointment with him. So it ended up falling on me all the time, which is okay. Like I'm the mom, I'll take that on. Like, and Max wanted me there. So I wanted to be there. Like the times when dad went and I was working, like that's all I was thinking about anyway. It was like, is he telling him this? Is he telling him he's still nauseous? Is he telling him that he needs his refilled? So like you get in this mom ecology, parent ecology mode where you're like, you know all these details and you know the things you need to tell them so that they can help you solve if the problems that are still happening, like the nausea or the weakness or are all of the things that you need help with. There's so much that falls on your shoulders that I don't think people realize.
So you are, and like I said, you're the biggest advocate for your child, but you also know your child, their baselines, you know it best. You know what is right and what's wrong. Even beyond a medical standpoint, you can look at your child and say, for somebody else that might be normal. For my child, it's not normal. And I'm telling you that this is something that needs to be better looked at. And so with that, I ask about, and I can obviously tell our own story till I'm blue in the face, but it's, diagnosis for children going through this does not generally happen very quickly. It's usually a long process because a lot of times I think the medical community, they're not looking for cancer. They're looking for everything other than that. And I get that. Like you don't want to jump into it and say every child that comes in with chronic constipation has cancer, right? But that is a big symptom amongst this community that a lot of kids face, and it kind of gets cast off as something else. So I know you mentioned it before, but what were kind of more of, or maybe some more, you would think for everybody else, maybe insignificant symptoms that turned out to be connected? And then how long did it really take to get a diagnosis from when you first started noticing something was wrong?
So it was for us, it was really sudden. Like, and you just brought up some mom guilt. So
I'm
It's
sorry.
it's
I'm sorry.
it's okay. It's okay. When I explain, you'll kind of understand. So when we go up there, their grandparents actually have property up there. So it's like I think it's a half acre, and they've got a mobile home, and we stay in it. It's camping, but I don't consider it really camping. But we had them helping with. So him and his older brother was still at home, and we had them helping with chores. So he's carrying wood back and forth, and then we got into probably the biggest argument we've ever had over him. He'd gotten chips on the floor inside, and I was saying, "You need to vacuum this up." And he's saying, like, "Mom, I just don't feel good. I'm so tired. I just feel so tired. I just don't feel good." And I was thinking, well, you just stayed up too late last night. And so we got into probably the biggest fight we've ever been in over him vacuuming up the floor. Come to find out, he had a tumor and he had cancer, and it was legit. So yeah, there's some things, little things, like so a lot of things that I've learned from this. And my kids will say I'm not the same parent that I was. Like they're like the parent Michaela had, my oldest daughter who's 29, is very different than the parent Max now has, now that he's 14. And I'm like, how could you not go through something like this and be completely different? You are like, and those little things, they just don't matter. They just don't matter. So it was more flu-like symptoms, I would say. He started feeling really weak. He wasn't keeping food down. So he was just laying on the couch, watching TV, sleeping a lot. Like, and it was quick. It was like within a week. It was in a week time from when um he started just not feeling good and not keeping things down. And then it got like day five-ish, six-ish, and he wasn't keeping liquid down anymore. And that's when we were like, we got to take him in. And it was fast. Like I drove straight there. to urgent care. That doctor told me he doesn't look good. What do you think? I said, he's pale. And we went straight up to primaries. And I swear it was maybe 2, 3 hours from the time we first got in there. Like they rushed him back. They got him on fluids. They were monitoring. He had oxygen. They took him for an x-ray. They brought him back in. And like so many doctors and nurses were in that room, so many. And then they said oncology's coming down. Like it was quick. Like I watch stories of other kiddos and it's never that quick. But for him, it was quick. Like I don't know how long he had that tumor. They don't know how long. They did testing. They said it wasn't genetic. They asked a whole bunch of environmental questions and they couldn't point anything out about why it happened. We just got to be the random lucky ones that he ended up with this lymphoma. So the lymphoblastic lymphoma is what he had. So we just got to be the lucky random ones that it happened. And it was quick. It was quick from the time he started feeling not good to the time we went to the doctor. It just was so quick. Like, and cancer never entered my mind.
Right.
It's flu or it's COVID. That's what I was thinking. Even when they told me oncology is coming down, I'm like, why? Why would oncology need to come down? That doesn't even make sense. Like, and I was probably just already in shock. So, yeah, but it was quick.
Yeah, and you mentioned something too, and listen, it is for this community, and I'll just say it, it's shit luck. Like that is what we deal with every single day. I mean, you can't figure it out environmentally, you can't figure it out genetically, you can't figure it out any other way. It just is what it is, and they can't really figure out what the problem is. And that's a big hinder for us, is not knowing what causes it, so we don't know how to prevent it.
Yeah.
And it was quick for you guys, and that's good, because the quicker you can catch it, the quicker you can treat it, you can understand, how to better attack this monster. And for us, it was weeks and weeks and weeks before we were able to find something out. Once they did run the first CT scan, they knew what it was, and we were admitted right away for 12 days, 3 brain surgeries. I mean, it was a lot, but there was, again, no understanding as to why we were there. We don't have a family history. We don't have any. I mean, she was 6 years old. There's no reason for it to happen, and try to figure these things out. But you also mentioned something, and which is guilt. And as parents, right? Again, I don't want anybody to feel ever that this is about bringing up guilt for you, because as parents, I think we all feel it, right? I know I always say that no matter what, I will feel like a failure because I couldn't protect my kid from this. And the guilt for me is that with our daughter's symptoms, they were in the morning, and they would kind of level off and not really happen in the rest of the day. So I was like, in the beginning, I thought, okay, she just doesn't want to go to school. She's faking it. And I'm getting upset. And now I have to live with that for the rest of my life, that I didn't believe her, knowing that something was growing and something was hurting her, but we didn't know what. And the symptoms were so weird that, again, doctors are looking at it saying, okay, it's this, but it's not this. But we all become Google doctors, right? We all look it
Yes,
up.
we do.
We're not supposed to, but we do. We look it up, and we find scary things, and we bring it up to our doctors, and they're like, that's not what it is. But the reality of it is we have to live with that. But that's not anything that's going to change, but it's how we move forward in this, and it's how we push past that. But yeah, that Google doctor thing is something that I try to tell people not to do, but at the same time, to be informed and to understand all of those forms that you get that you have to sign, and the waivers and side effects, you want to know. So you do your research. And, there are parents that have notebooks that they will take with them to the doctor that are labeled and tabbed. And listen, I've got a question about this. And that's what you should do 100%.
Okay. It said I was disconnected, but it connected again. Can you hear me?
Yep. You're good.
Yep, you're good.
Okay. So yeah, by the time they told me not to Google anything, it was too late because I'd already been Googling. Like they didn't say a word when we were in the PICU. So those whole 6 days they were there, I was Googling everything. And statistics are scary. So that was scary. But probably the best advice I had in the beginning was to reach out to other families, like to go on Facebook, to join those groups, because those were the people that kept me going in the beginning. And they were sharing pictures of, look, this is my son, or this is my daughter. This is what they went through. Here they are now. And then we had another family with their sweet little girl reach out to us who had the same kind of cancer, and she was doing good. And they just told us, like, this is what happened, but now this is where we are, and you'll get there too. And that positivity mattered like so much, like trying to be as positive as you can, like, because you're faced with when your child has been on steroids for weeks and they're angry about everything and they're yelling and screaming and they're this child you don't recognize anymore. You need to hear that there's an other side to that, because I didn't know that his personality would ever go back to normal. And I would apologize to the nurses and the doctors when they'd walk in the room and he would just be so angry all the time. And they turn into this child you don't recognize for a while. Like, and I don't know, not every child has steroids for that long, but he was on steroids for weeks and had anger issues for weeks. And you know, your 9-year-old child is yelling at you like, I hate you, and why are you making me do this, and why are you making me take this, and I don't want another shot, and I don't want more medicine. And you know that that medicine is keeping them alive, and you're the one that's having to force them to do something that they don't want to do. Like, how can you not know that you're doing the right thing for them, at the same time carrying guilt that you're forcing them to go through this? Like, and I think back, like the hardest choice I ever had to make was, in the beginning, anesthesia was too dangerous and he kept blowing IVs. And so we had to make the choice to do a PICC line before his port was placed, but we had to do it without anesthesia. And they let me stay in the room. And after, they were like, we never let parents stay in and do this, but they were like, but you were doing it so well. And that was my first breakdown. I went in the bathroom and I screamed and I yelled and I cried and I came out. And all the nurses and the doctors acted like nothing had happened, like it was just normal. Pick yourself back up and go on. But like, I don't know how, like, people say you're so strong, and it's not about strength. It's about you're doing what you have to do because that's your child, and you would do anything for them. You would give them the world, and they've got this thing that you can't fight, and you've got to force them to do things that you don't want to force them to do, but you have to. Like, you have no choice in what's going on, and they have no choice in what's going on, and you feel helpless. I think you just feel helpless. You might act like you don't, but you feel helpless. And I don't know if you felt that way too, but like, you listen to the nurses and the doctors and you follow what they're saying, and you Google and you research and you see, like, this is the best plan. This is what you have to do, but you wish there was something better and something less harsh and something that wouldn't make them sick all the time. You wish they didn't have to go through everything that they go through. And then people wonder why we talk about it all the time and we are so open about it, because things need to change. Some of these chemos, like, I think people are still talking about the Red Devil, daunorubicin, like Max had it, and like, it was invented, 60, 70 years ago? Some of these chemos that they're getting are so harsh, and things just need to be better for them, I think. And I don't know how to, other than coming on places like here and talking about it, I don't know how to ever change things for them, because people just don't know what it's like until you're there. You just don't.
Right. No,
But I think about it all the time.
No,
I'm sure you
I
do.
think you're 100%
100% right.
It is
It is
unfortunate that well, it's fortunate that not a lot of people understand how we feel. But at the same time, it's unfortunate because people don't understand why we're so upset, why we fight so hard, why we scream so loud, why we want to make such a stink about all of this. But the reality of it is, the biggest thing that you said is the thing that I hear from everybody, which is, hey, I don't know how you do it. How do you get up every day? I don't understand how you're so strong. Because in this community, I think our biggest motto is that we were never given a choice. We were never asked if we wanted to wake up and have this fight. We were never asked if we wanted to get up and stand alongside our kids as they were having procedures done, that we could no longer help them as they're reaching out to us as their parents to save them from doctors and nurses and needles and procedures. And we didn't ask for this. And really, the only thing that we have in this fight is our voice as one community. And you know, something that was said a few years ago that stuck out in my mind is that when there's 1,000 people in a room and they're all screaming different things, they get tuned out. But when there's 1,000 people in the room screaming the same thing, then that's when people start to listen. And that's the best way, because we as parents carry the weight of the world on our shoulders. We carry the change. We're the ones that are going to make the difference. Yes, we do need, unfortunately, elected officials to actually sign on the dotted line to make things happen, but it's us doing it. It's philanthropy from organizations that are in this community that are pushing for bills to pass. It's voices like this, podcasts, Facebook, Instagram, whatever. It's social media. Sharing your story. And I really enjoy the fact being able to talk to the parents. I don't enjoy that there's more parents every day to talk to, but I enjoy being able to share stories because it's our biggest tool. And hearing, sharing our daughter's story, hearing Max's story, and all these other kids. Their lives are important. They're worth living. They're worth talking about, and they're worth fighting for. Because the amount of children that we're losing every year, the amount of families that hear these words, the amount of jobs that are lost, relationships that are broken up over this, it's incredible. And we have to be able to find a way to better normalize sharing these stories. And being okay with people not wanting to listen, but wanting to make sure that they understand why we're saying what we're saying.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that. Let's see if this will work now. Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, I had to actually plug in. They died. But yeah, like I'm a teacher, and I bummed out my whole lunchroom the other day because I started talking about it. Somebody was just talking about my fingernails, and I said, well, yeah, it's Childhood Cancer Awareness Month. And they were like, we didn't even know that. And I said, well, yeah, my son Max had cancer. And I started talking about it. And like I said, I don't mean to make you all sad. We're lucky he's doing fine. We're one of the lucky ones. But yeah, it's important to talk about it. And
yeah,
like I couldn't even describe what one of our days was like. Like, I learned how to do IV fluids overnight. I learned how to access and deaccess his port if the nurses weren't there. And sometimes when a home nurse would come and they would accidentally leave it on and I'd have to take it off. And I learned how to do the heparin at night to make sure that his port was still working. You learn how to do so much and you go through so much. And even when you talk about it, you don't explain what a day-to-day was like. I would joke that Tide should sponsor us because we were doing so much laundry because he was sick all the time, but he also would have accidents, which as a 9-year-old is so embarrassing. He ended up into pins for a while because he just couldn't make it from the bed to the bathroom because he was so weak. And he was sleeping in our bed at that point and maybe had 10 steps to go and he just couldn't make it. And people have no idea what it's really like. And even when I think back to being inpatient and being on that floor and the sounds that you would hear, the other children you'd hear crying, the babies, I don't think people even understand what it's like to see a 9-year-old fight this, let alone a 6-year-old, let alone a baby on the unit. And your heart's never the same. It just never is. And there's so many that don't get to where we are. We're lucky to be in survivorship. We're lucky that at the end of November, we'll hopefully hit 3 years since he took his last chemo pill. We're lucky to be hitting these milestones. And I recognize that. But your heart just breaks for all the ones who don't because your eyes are wide open now and they can't be closed. And you want other people to take it as seriously as you do. That's the bottom line.
Yeah. We want people to know that we're here. And I say often, to be honest with you, that the one word that I will not say in this community, aside from the rarity of our daughter's cancer, is that it's rare. I won't. And I say it because I think that you could at any point in time go outside of your home and you could walk 10 doors either direction and you will find a family that is currently fighting this or knows somebody that is. That's how prevalent it is in our community, in our cities, in our towns. That's how big it is. And unfortunately, nobody knows about it. Nobody knows what gold is, but I can guarantee you in a couple of weeks that everything's going to be light up pink. And listen, I've said this before. I have nothing against people fighting breast cancer. You are warriors too, 100%. Cancer sucks all the way across, but we get drowned out by all the noise around the world. We get no recognition, and we're not looking for pedestals. We're not looking for awards. We're not looking for any of that. We're looking for you to know that we're here and that our kids are going through something terrible, and that these children at any day of the week will change your perspective on life if you just talk to them for 5 minutes. You don't have to
Exactly.
know them. You don't have to know the family. Just if you ever have the opportunity, number one, if anybody ever asks me about my daughter and I tell them and they start to get upset or they apologize, number one, don't apologize. I want to talk about her. I want to talk about this because she deserves to have her name continuing to be said and said and said. But number two, ask me why. Ask me why my hair is gold this month. Ask me why I have, I talk about it and post it on social media. Ask me why things are different. Ask me about this stuff and allow us to explain to you why it's so important that we are out there yelling and screaming and asking for help and begging for help, and nobody wants to pay attention. Our kids, I think, are our biggest asset in this world. They're what are going to drive us through the future no matter what. And I say as well that my kids are my greatest achievement. I will never achieve anything greater than my kids in my life. And I know that a lot of parents feel that way, and therefore that achievement is what's going to carry us through. And we've got to give them the recognition that they deserve and the respect that they're owed. And so, yes, is it a lot when you hear parents talking about their kids? Here we go again type of thing. But yes, because we want you to know how important it is. Our kids are going through something terrible. Our kids are going through something horrific. The insights of this, of becoming an unlicensed home health nurse, right? And we're doing the same thing with the HEP blocks and the flushing of the ports and feed bags and all of this kind of stuff. You become a home health nurse, not unlicensed in your state, not getting paid for it. Your payment is that your child lives another day because you're there to take care of them.
Yeah.
And the reality of it is we just want them to be seen and be heard. Again, like I said, I don't need to be on award shows. I don't need to be on TV shows. I just want my kid's name to never be forgotten.
Exactly. Like in friends that I follow, and I could start naming off names, and it's sad. Jackson's mom breaks my heart every day when she posts, and he should still be here. And I'm wearing Lila's shirt today, that she's still fighting. And these kids matter. That's all I can say is they matter. Every single one of them matters. And what they go through is bullshit. I can swear right on here. Should I not say that?
Yeah, 100%.
It's bullshit.
Please do.
It's messed up. The things that they go through that they have to do, it's they should not have to. They should not be forced to be taking chemo that was invented decades ago, that's used on adults, that is so harsh and has so many side effects. We don't know in the future if Max will be able to have children. We have to watch his heart for the rest of his life. And then when another mom was talking about a nausea med and the side effects of a nausea med and how they're affecting her child, and I'm like, Max had that one too. And I don't remember anybody telling me about any of these side effects. But even if they survive, they are never the same. He's still a little over 2.5 years later, his immune system is still crap. He got a cold at the beginning of the school year. I thought he was getting over it, took him back to school. Then he got sick again. His immune system is still not the same. I don't think his energy is the same. We go and do something fun one day, or we go swimming, or we go visit his nephews and niece, and he comes back the next day and he has to rest. It's just even when they survive, it's harsh on their bodies. It's so harsh. And people don't understand.
No. And I want to talk more kind of about survivorship. And once you get to a point that chemo is done or treatment is done, but that I want to also emphasize on the fact that if you just take a moment at any point in time and just Google it, side effects that children will deal with past the 5-year mark of being cancer-free if they beat their cancer. They're the side effects that you're essentially given in the end. So this is what you had that prove that you had cancer. These are the effect or the symptoms you had. The side effects from the treatments that you get later on in life. You mentioned it. Our daughter was told that she would never have kids. She was losing her hearing because of one of the chemo drugs. Obviously your hair falling out is just kind of the quintessential. That's the image of it. But later long-term heart effects, lung effects, seizures, mental delays, like things like that, and learning delays. Like there is so much that they're going to deal with later on in life. I would honestly argue that once your treatment is done is really when the real fight begins to kind of get back to normalcy or some sense of it and regain what you had before it all started and try and get back on that level. And I think that's a lot of times I think we can put a real big mental strain on these kids because why am I not at this point, or why are they
Yes.
moving further ahead than me? I'm the same age. Talk a little bit about that, but also, moving forward in that survivorship and what that means.
I would say when his treatment plan was supposed to be 3.5 years, but he was so sick that at the 2.5 year mark, the doctor came to us and said, well, listen, in Europe, they've done studies and they're saying that if we go that extra year of chemo, it doesn't matter in the long term. And I very bluntly looked at him and I said, well, I don't want to make a decision that's going to come back and going to endanger his life. I left that doctor. He very bluntly looked at me and said, whether you go another year or not, it's not going to make a difference. And if he really relapses or not, it's just not. And where he's been so sick, I'm leaving it up to you, but this is my recommendation that we stop. So we stopped a year early and Max was like all for it. He was so excited, but because he was just so nauseous and even on maintenance where they say, hey, it's going to be so much better, it wasn't for him. So it was kind of a very abrupt end to everything that went on. And he didn't even he didn't ring the bell. He didn't do any of that. It just kind of stopped really abruptly, which is okay. I mean, we were glad to be done. I still sometimes think, I hope I don't ever regret that decision. I don't think that I will, but yeah, it weighs on your mind. But then we were in survivorship, which I didn't even know was called survivorship. And they're like, hey, now you're not going to come see us anymore. Now you're going to go over here to this other place and they're going to do his labs and then you'll come over here. So it's like this big breakup with this family that you've had for 2.5 years. And it was a little hard in the beginning, realizing, okay, he can go over here and now you can have labs every month and then you can have labs every 3 months. And now we're at 6 months and just calming yourself down not to have the worry because labs bring some reassurance that they're doing okay. And his last labs were the first ones where everything was all green, but they're like, he's doing good. It just takes the body a long time to recover. His kidneys, it took him a little bit, but he's doing good. Everything's green now. And they're like, at this next one, if you want to, you can go to a year. I don't know if I'm ready for a year. We'll see how we feel. But 6 months, I've been doing okay. He's fine. He's like, Mom, I'm fine. I'm 14 now. If something's wrong, I'll tell you. I'll know now if something's wrong and I'll tell you. I don't 100% believe that, but I think he probably does know his body more than he did back then to know if something's going wrong. But there's just you're abruptly in this new time, which is supposed to be so good. Yay, you made it. You're in survivorship. But it hits you, everything you went through, and then all the worry is still there, but without the safety net of going to your oncology nurses and doctors all the time. So that was an adjustment. I think I'm handling it better. This last time he got sick and I didn't panic, but there's repercussions around his siblings. And so one of his older sons has my grandson, Colton, and Colton got bumps on his body. And I was thinking, oh, maybe it's hives. But the first thing they asked was, could it be leukemia? So my other children, we just talked about this a couple weeks ago, are having effects too that I never even realized. I didn't even think because it really affects the whole family. And that's where their brain goes too. Could this be cancer? Could this be happening again? Could this be happening with our children now? It doesn't ever leave your mind that it could just happen again. And we're still in survivorship. We're still okay, but I'm still thinking about those labs at the end of next month. And are they going to still be good? Because it could come back. It could come back now. It could come back in 5 years. It could come back in 10. He could be an adult and it could come back. We just don't know. Especially when you don't know what caused it. There's so many unknowns still. And I definitely think we're both in better places mentally. I think he's doing really good. He's definitely not the same kid he was before. He doesn't go outside and play like he used to. And they told me this was normal. He started playing a lot of more video games, a lot of things he could do while he was laying down. He'd watch a lot of more movies. Like, and he still plays a lot more video games. His siblings will push him. Like, they'll say, hey, let's go play basketball, and he'll go outside and play with them. But it's not something that he naturally does anymore, where before he was outside all the time. Like, and I still don't think, like, we've done a lot of swimming this summer. I still don't think he can get tan. Like, his skin is still like really pale all the time. But like, it's just a weird thing that I notice. Like, because that was one of the things leading up to when he got sick too. We were outside all the time, and he was just deathly pale. Like, and he wouldn't get tan. And like, I still look at his skin, and it's like, he still looks really pale to me, but his labs say he's doing okay. Like, they listen to his heart, they listen to his lungs, they make sure nothing's growing there, but it's still there. It's like still in your mind. It never goes away. It just never
Yeah.
does.